welcome to this Academy talk. I'm really excited tonight to be here with our provost, Peter Drake, who is going to host this with me, and to be talking to Chris Wilson. Chris is somebody that I first met at a drawing party weekend hosted by our board member, Rick Siegel, who's also a dear friend. And Rick met Chris in Baltimore while Rick was doing a tour of social impact businesses there. Chris's business was one that he had focused on and started and focused on providing employment for people after their release from prison. And that was one of the businesses that Rick was touring. So that business is just one of the things that Chris does. Chris is also an artist, a mentor, a social entrepreneur and activist, a sought-after speaker, and an author. His book, The Master Plan, is a bestseller that tells the story of his life and his triumph over seemingly insurmountable challenges. And Chris has been featured because of that on the Trevor Noah Show. He travels all over the country speaking about his life. He's even received a presidential award for his work. The best thing is he's already an active member of our Academy community. He's done in the past year or so a talk with Alyssa Monks on Instagram Live. He's been a visiting critic at the school. He has been helping to connect Baltimore artists and potential students with the school. And he's one of the artists included in the 2020 Vision, which is a show that the Academy organized this summer at the Southampton Arts Center. And recently, Chris did a panel with a group of artists involved with that show as well. So, Chris, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you here tonight. I'm going to ask you now, Chris, to show us some of your work in your studio, and Peter and I will ask you questions as we go. But before we do, I wonder if we could just start by you telling us a little about your life and how you started painting.
Of course. So thanks again for having me. I started several companies in Baltimore when, I guess about 8 years ago. And I did a lot of work for artists and museums, and I would transport stuff through my contracting company from Baltimore to New York. And when I would get off work, I would work long hours, like 10, 12 hours a day. And I would get off work, I would go back to these artist studios, and I would sit in the studios and watch them make art. And I asked a lot of questions. What is this about? What does this mean? What is the purpose of it? And it became my therapy. And so 3.5 years ago, one of my friends who's an artist, Jeffrey Kent, gave me 5 art lessons as a birthday present. And initially I didn't want the lessons.
Chris, the sound just went out.
Chris, your sound went out for a minute.
Is everything?
Can you hear me now?
You're back. Yeah.
Okay,
Start with initially you didn't want the art lessons.
Yeah. So I didn't want the art lessons, and I did it anyway. And I started talking about what art meant, and then Jeffrey told me that art's all around us, and that it should mean something to me. And so I started thinking about criminal justice reform, social injustices. And he said, you should be able to defend it. So you got to do a lot of research on anything that you make. And so I started making art about 3.5 years ago, and it became very therapeutic for me, very cathartic. And I just never stopped. And so I went on and I started doing like shows and, all around the world, in Italy, and I went to South America and did some shows in France. And I started using art as a way to I always say this, as a weapon to move the needle in social advocacy work and talking about stuff in the community. And so I started to really develop and understand the role that artists could play in the world. And I fell in love with it. So I started collecting art too, but I really enjoy making art. And so I'm just excited to be here today.
That's fantastic. So after you did the 5 lessons with your friend, did you continue studying?
Yes. Yeah, so after I had done it, that's one of the things I realized. I've always been a lifelong student. especially in college and foreign languages and just everything in general. But like since then, I've been reading tons of books. So I read about two art books a week. You can probably see right here some of the things that I'm studying: anatomy, color theory, art history, all kinds of stuff. And I think that's key to me becoming a better artist. Is I got to be willing to learn and push myself to the limits. And so, and then for me, it's not work because I love it. And so this is just fun.
Well, I know a place where you could take some classes.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a question for you. I was wondering, you mentioned in the master plan that, and when you were in Patuxent, that there was a mural project that you had initiated.
Yeah.
Were there other art-like experiences in prison that you had contact with, or was that the kind of a one-shot deal?
Wait, can I stop you guys for 1 sec? I feel like Peter are asking questions that people might not know the background about. So Chris, will you talk about how your book, the master plan relates to the art practice, and then get into what Peter's asking about?
Yeah, totally. I think I have a copy right here too. So I am the author of the book titled The Master Plan. And essentially, if I could sum up this very complicated story, I grew up in a very difficult neighborhood in Washington, D.C. And my mom at the time was dating a police officer who was like a crooked cop, like Denzel in Training Day, the movie. And one day he attacked us, attacked my mom, and he started stalking our family. And I lost my cousin. Like they shot my cousin. They shot my brother. My brother survived, but they came after me. And at this point, I was carrying a gun because of the stalking, and I ended up taking a person's life. And I was sentenced to natural life in prison. And so I was 17 years old. So I was charged as an adult. And once I got to prison after the first year, I realized that I wanted to prove to myself and to everyone else that my life was redeemable. So I wrote up what I call my master plan, which is essentially like a bucket list. And it was things that I wanted to do. I knew I was always very book smart. I could read books and memorize stuff. And I was on the chess team. And so I had the mind for it, but I never applied myself. And so I just started applying myself. And I ended up spending almost half of my life in prison because it's very difficult to get out. And I did 16 and a half years in prison. And when I came home, I was homeless and unemployed, but I had studied and went to therapy my entire time incarcerated. And so that's when I started starting companies and doing work in my community and eventually falling in love with art.
Well, Chris, I don't know if I'm allowed to do a commercial plug here, but I have been giving everybody your book. I think it's an amazing story.
I appreciate that.
And once I started reading it, I just could not put it down. And I'm just, I found it amazingly inspiring and, you know, a real story of triumph. So
I have to, along those lines though, you know, I mean, it's such an inspiring book, and it's your discipline and your dedication is so extraordinary. But when you finally got out, when you were paroled, and the caseworker in your halfway house was just like doing everything she could to keep you from succeeding. I mean, she was trying to make you fail. And what is the fifth or sixth gear that you've got that allowed you to get through that and sort of ignore that and still remain positive?
I mean, that's a good question. And to be honest with you, it was the toughest moment in my life because, you know, I had made mistakes for all my life up until that point, and I got into a rhythm of like doing things the right way and doing the right thing even when people wasn't watching. And here I was, 1 foot out in the community, straight A student in college, and I had someone that was supposed to help me that was against me, and so it was a dark moment for me. But I think what I decided to do was the best thing is to pay people back by just being successful. And so I have like this kind of resilience gene where stuff happens to me and I mean, it's bad for a moment, but I just always think about how am I going to get back up? And then also, what about the people who look up to me? All the people that I mentored, what would they say about me if I just gave into it or if I just like chose the wrong thing? So I always think about that. All the people that invested in me, all of the people that look up to me, and then where I want to go in the future. And so my philosophy is you pay those people back by just being successful and doing the right thing. And so it took a little while, it took an extra year, but I was able to accomplish it.
Yeah.
Well, that particular part was a nail biter. I got to tell you, when I was reading that, it was like, come on. But I have to say, one of the things I got from the book too, as an artist and as living in a community of artists, is that, you're going to have a career in art. You got to be able to be resilient, and you have to be able to face, rejection, setback, lack of recognition, just a million things along the way, and keep believing in yourself. And I kept thinking about that while I was reading your book.
Yeah, so maybe it was preparing me for this art journey. And also, you make a good point. One of my friends, like a lot of my artist friends, who most of them are relatively successful, we critique each other's work. And like sometimes, they just don't like it. And they understand it's like, we know this doesn't bother you, but like you still need to hear it. And I think all artists need to listen to critiques and feedback, whether they like it or not. And so I think I got a little bit of, training in my earlier days in prison.
That point about critiques and feedback is one of the things I think that makes the Academy community so unique also, because we have a very, that's like totally integrated into our community and system of learning, and happens on a regular basis all the time.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like your community in Baltimore is super tight. It feels to me like New York in the 40s or 50s, where everybody knows who the serious artists are. Whereas in New York now, it's so diffuse in a way and so competitive. You tend not to have that kind of close-knit community unless you've got something like the Academy that sort of prepares you for it.
Right. I mean, that's interesting too. I've been realizing that. I've been, I guess, living here in Tribeca for about a year now, almost a year. And I really don't understand that. And I think it actually does the artist a disservice, because there's a lot to be gained by cross-pollinating and meeting other artists, critiquing each other, and just working with folks versus just staying in your individual silo. So in Baltimore, we actually, a lot of the artists there, we actually have a pact to critique each other, to support each other, share information. We share books. Like I'm beaming out books and recommendations maybe twice a week to folks. And so I think like there's strength in numbers, and just capitalizing on shared wisdom is probably the right way to do, especially for the art market.
I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, you as an entrepreneur, I think, just have that built into your system. But
yeah, business school, yeah.
Seriously, I mean, not enough artists think of themselves as small businesses, but they really should.
Right.
One of the other things I think is important in that regard that I got from your book is really the focus on the end game. What's your end game? And,
yes.
And I think that's also, talk a minute about that, because I think that is really something that anybody who wants a career making art should be thinking about also. Right.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I've been doing a lot of mentoring for young guys and young women for a while now. I don't know, 20 years. And it's all relative too. So it could be someone who is maybe working at a retail store, but they always wanted to be a photographer and like track birds in like Brazil or something like that. And so like when I have these conversations with people about thinking about your end game, it's like, think about your ideal life that you want to live. Like, who is it? Like, 20 years out, and then work backwards. So it's like, if you want to be like this bird watcher, or if you want to be like this entrepreneur, what are the skill sets that you need to be working on now in order to be prepared for when your opportunity comes where you can do that? And so I started this when I was like 19, and I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so I just, high school diploma, it was college and certain books, and I got magazine subscriptions, and I got a subscription to the Wall Street Journal. And I just started tracking like the market and studying it. And that's the same thing I think that, for example, artists can do, or anyone can do. It's like thinking about where you want to go. And what makes it helpful is if you know where you want to go, then while you're on this journey, and it could take years, you can track your progress. You can see like if you're getting closer to your goal, you can start checking boxes of like, okay, I need to be familiar with this type of technology or read these books. And once you master those, you can check them off. And then that gets you closer and closer to the end game.
So David, do you want me to screen share some paintings here?
Yeah, I do. I want to start looking at, this is where the rubber meets the road. Let's start looking
Okay.
at the road.
Oh yeah, we can. I can show some work ahead too if you want. So are we doing square sheet?
Let's do both, yeah.
Okay. All right.
You guys can see it?
Okay. So this is awesome. So these are two pieces I did. The one on the right is titled F Uncle Sam, and I did a lot of research and I figured out a whole bunch of ways that Uncle Sam has used, you know, his influence to stay in power all around the world, going to war, and what we did to the Native Americans, selling guns and gentrification. And I can understand that most people probably wouldn't want to have this hung on their walls, but like this is one of those conversational pieces where it may make some people uncomfortable, but these were a lot of policies and things that were put in place, America put in place, that bears a discussion. And the piece to the left is a part of a series of paintings that I did. I went to spend a lot of time in Europe, and I used a lot of vibrant colors because all of the primary colors were denied to me when I was in prison, denied for all of us in prison. And it was just like 3 colors that were allowed. And once I got out and I started painting, I wanted to use as many colors as possible. And for me, the colors signify untapped potential and like vibrancy. And so I really like using them.
You know, I love seeing these two together because they speak to the two pretty consistent compositional strategies that you use. One where you're making an icon, which is what it looks like on the left, and the other
Yes.
using kind of an all-over compositional approach where it almost seems chaotic at times, like you're being bombarded with information.
Yes.
I really like that. I like the chaos of that. I love the energy of it. And it feels like the world, you know, like it feels kind of, you know, Broadway boogie woogie, but souped up to an incredible degree.
Yeah, it feels like 2020 actually.
Yeah, right. Oh man.
So this is, I actually sold this piece 2 months ago. And my therapist actually encouraged me to make this painting. I go to therapy every Wednesday, and I had this is called commitment phobia. And I think I probably got this from my mom, like having abandonment issues. And so in the past, I've been in relationships that have been like great. And then it gets to the point of like, where is this going? And I, you know, in the past, I would freak out and just like self-sabotage. And so my therapist was like, you should make a painting about it. And my my art mentor, Jeffrey Kent, who got me into painting, actually bought the painting from me. It became his favorite painting.
Can I ask you a little bit about, you know, your career? Like,
Sure.
You know, most artists talk about trying to get into galleries and, you know, they always think about the marketplace in a very particular way. But I feel like you've done this weird end run around the marketplace, like you've created your own marketplace. You talk about having, you know, like gallery nights in your home or in a friend's
Yes.
home.
Yes. So I think this came after just like really like studying the art market. And I think a lot of artists should make art that they want to make. And I mean, this is your life, this is your journey. And I just was thinking of like barriers to entry, like getting picked up by a gallery or whatever. I just wanted to make art. And so, and my philosophy was I could make art, you know, and hang it in my home, and I can have discussions in my house over like champagne and food, and not really just try to sell the art, but just talk about the stories behind it. And it just became incredibly successful for me. And I just started doing it like all over the world, just like renting a house and setting stuff up and just making art and just talking about the art. And I just started selling it, and it's been great.
Pretty amazing. Here's another one that's like that totally chaotic.
Oh yeah.
Energy.
So this is a real personal painting for me. It's actually huge too. This is 72 by 96. And this is me and my little brother at my mother's funeral. And my mom committed suicide in 2011. And she called me on the phone and we talked for about 5 minutes. And then she wrote a letter and she took her life. Jeez. And this was a piece that I made afterwards. I just got it back off loan from the American Visionary Arts Museum. And they wanted me to make a piece about parenting, the good and the bad. And this painting is about the guilt that I felt. Like these men came after me when I was young, and I made a mistake and went to prison, but I was a mama's boy and I left my mom. And so this painting is about, like, we make decisions in our neighborhoods, and if we're mama's boys or whatever, we leave our moms. And I feel guilty of having left my mom while she suffered, and she got attacked, and she became addicted to drugs, and her life just spiraled downhill. And so that's what this painting is about. And so it's a lot going on in here too.
It's one of my favorite paintings of yours. And I feel like the combination of graffiti strategies,
Yes.
and fine arts strategies, and, you know, all of the tagging that's going on in it, it's really, really amazing painting.
Yeah, thank you.
What, is it acrylic?
So it is aerosol and it's acrylic on canvas.
What's your process? Do you,
Good question.
well, I guess what I was asking is, you know, is this painting evolving as you're painting it, or do you have a plan for it that you're starting out with and you're filling it in?
So I'm still learning as far as like perfecting my process. But with this particular piece, I got a phone call from the museum. It's like, we want you to do a piece. And I was like, you know, I hadn't done a show at all. And I was super nervous. And so I actually started it, and then I redid it. And then I just panicked, and I went to Paris for about 2 weeks, and just to sketch and think about like how I wanted to do it. And they called me and said, don't worry about if anybody likes the painting. All we want you to do is put your heart and soul into it. And so I flew back to the States, and I worked on it for about a week. And this what came to be. But my process is usually, I think about meaning. I do research, a lot of online stuff. I think about color schemes. I think about the music that I play. I'm notoriously known for blasting house music, but I make work. So I usually I'll loop like 3 songs, and I'll just dance, and I'll just make the work.
You know, in the 70s, every subway car looked like this on the outside.
Yeah.
I mean,
we need to bring that back.
Seriously, this is like, could you imagine if that pulled into a subway station, how energizing that would be?
Yeah.
And where did these come from?
So the piece, I guess, to everyone's left, is a part of the same series of the ones when I went to Europe. These kind of like animals and like suits and stuff. I guess both of them from the same series. And it's about how it feels to walk into a space and people see you differently. And like, believe it or not, like, these are about race. And when I was going to places like Brussels and like Germany and, Portugal, and I would walk into bar settings and people would just like gasp, or little kids would stare at me. And it's because I look different. It was because of like my race. And so I came back and I just started doing a bunch of paintings of like, I went shopping too. I went and got like some suits in New York and stuff, because it was like, you can't dress like a homeless person in Europe. And so when I went over there, I thought I looked good, but like people would just stare at me, and because they saw me as different. And so I made a series of paintings about it. And, they're all gone now. Actually, I actually sold all of them, but I got one here in the place. But it was a really interesting exploration of like race and traveling through Europe and through the world.
Right.
Hey, Chris, we do have one question from the audience. Someone's asked, and you touched on this a little bit, but as an artist, what matters most for you?
What matters most for me is the purpose behind the work. I think so. I am at the core, I'm a storyteller. So like, I'm a writer. I do storytelling. I executive produce like short films. It's all about the story and like the purpose. And so everything that I make, there's always a story behind it. And, I get teased sometimes about, I usually say no to a lot of collectors, and it's because my work, I consider it like my children. And so I care where the work goes. And I want all my work to go to a nice home, and it never becomes your art. You only become the caretaker of the art. And so I care about where it goes. And really what I would like to see happen is like, when people collect my work, I want them to perpetuate the purpose of the work and the stories. And I want them to be like hosting events, like with their loved ones, and talking about like some social movement or some type of issue, and people doing something about it.
So this
It could also look good on their wall too.
this has a totally different feeling to me. It feels like there's a little bit of joy in the chaos.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, you really are a storyteller.
So would you guys like to see some of the stuff that we have in here? And
Yeah, let's
what do you
go
think?
to the studio.
Love to see your studio, yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, let's start with this one. So this piece is a real complicated piece that I've been working on for a long time. And it's titled The 94 Crime Bill. And for those who aren't familiar with the 94 Crime Bill, it was a bill that came out where it was very politicized. But part of this bill was targeting young Black children as super predators. And this policy, they crack cocaine, a whole bunch of sentencing policies where it decimated particularly Black and brown communities all around America. And so I was one of the children that got swept up from these policies. And this piece is about the 94 Crime Bill. And it's a lot going on in here. This is a quote by Hillary Clinton of what she said about children. You can see a lot of protests here. You can see a lot of militarized police forces, which decimated a lot of communities. And then you can see like the skulls of like all of the people that we lost to violence, being killed by police, or who are dying inside of prisons right now.
Yeah,
So I guess it's finished, but you never know. But this is a self-portrait I finished last night. And this is all on canvas. And I still battle depression here and there and anxiety. And oftentimes people would ask me casually, like, hey, how you doing? You okay? And I usually try to, sometimes when I'm not doing okay, I'll fake a smile and say, yeah, I'm good or whatever. But I don't get away with it with just people who know me, people who are close to me. And so this is titled Fake Smile. So this is my fake smile. And I use a lot of oil paint on this, real raw, but I like it.
Was it tough for you to make the transition from acrylic to oil?
No, well, it was tough because you have to be patient with oil. It takes a long time to dry, even though you can force it like to dry faster. But it's just different. But that's what I liked about it, is the different challenge. And it's like someone saying, well, let me tie one hand behind your back and let me see if you can do this. And then like, if you still can complete the obstacle. And so oil is, and then oil has a certain richness to it. Like when I see oil paintings in museums and stuff, I mean, it's just powerful. And so it was inevitable for me like to embark on the whole oil painting journey.
So were you looking in a mirror when you did that? From a photo-based?
It's a photograph. This is from a photograph, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, photograph that actually Monica Siegel, Rick Siegel's, my godmom actually took this photograph, I believe. And so
Monica is a great photographer.
Yes, she is.
Hey, Chris,
Okay.
the audience wants to know if your paintings are for sale.
Yes, almost everything is for sale, almost.
A question every artist likes to hear.
Yeah. Also, so I like to take on challenges again. And so these pieces are oil pastels. These are actually the first oil pastels I did during the lockdown. And, this was before I started studying anatomy and like people's faces and stuff like that. And I wanted to think about how a child who had no formal training would like sketch their loved ones. And so in these portrait series, I think I've done maybe 13 already. These are all people who've played instrumental roles in my life. And so this is actually a colorful version of Rick Siegel, who has become like a dad to me and mentor. And so that's Rick. This is titled The Connector. This is my friend who I used to sleep on his sofa in New York before I got my book deal, and he just connects me with people. He's like a brother to me and helps me out. This is a young lady who I'm friends with now, but I wanted to like date her, maybe marry her, but she like friend zoned me, so which is funny. This is called the Friendzoner. And this is a woman who's based in Baltimore who is like an angel. She's mentored over, 10,000 young kids in Baltimore. So whenever I'm around her, she pushes me to be the best version of myself. And so she's awesome.
Is that Jane?
No, it's not Jane. Jane is, fits that description. But this is Sarah Heminger, who has a mentoring program titled Thread. That she just does so much. She's one of the smartest people I know. And she's really low key. She'd probably be upset that I mentioned her name. She just wants to be behind the scenes, but she's an angel, and she just mentors and connects resources to people who need them the most. And so she inspires me to do the same thing. Want to be respectful of time too. These two pieces I actually purchased. I started collecting art about a year and a half ago. And so this artist, she's super talented. Her name's Nakia Hughley. And she can draw, she can paint, she can design your website. I mean, she designs tennis shoes. She's working with brands. She's doing all kinds of stuff. And so I've been working with her and collecting her work. And so I just got these framed up. But I think she's an awesome artist, which I hope to someday introduce her to the New York art world.
That's great.
This is a work in progress right here. This is myself and my friend Kondwani Fidel, who is a poet and an author who I've been mentoring for a couple of years. And this was, it's almost finished, but this is me embarking into figurative style painting, which I don't do, but I'm learning. And so, who better to paint than your friends and people that you love? And so this is this piece, which I like.
Hey, anybody in the room, I want to encourage you to use the Q&A. It's open at the bottom. I see some of you have your raised hands, so just make sure you put your question in the Q&A and we'll ask it for you.
So this is one of my earlier paintings after the 2015 uprising in Baltimore from the death of Freddie Gray. And I guess it's kind of relevant now, with all that's going on in the world. But this was an interesting piece that I framed and sketched myself. I think it's 7 sides. So it's a heptagon, I believe, 7 sides. But this is just about the protest, and it's titled "The Day We Fought Back." And so in certain communities in Baltimore, I guess around the world, there's so much police oppression. And this particular piece was about, in 2015, all of the police poured out of the city, or at least most parts of the city, and people, they destroyed cars and police cars and stuff like that, but they fought back against the police. Not saying that I condone it, but I understood the frustration with people in these communities and with the police. And so I wanted to capture a painting about it. And so that's what this is about.
The shape reminds me of either a rock or a badge in a weird way.
Yeah, actually a badge. It's probably yeah. So it's an interesting, I like making interesting, kind of original, unique style work. But this is one of the ones that I've done. Okay, real briefly, this is actually my first oil pastel painting that when I started during the lockdown, and these are little kids in Baltimore. They're always taking selfies and stuff, and it's a tough neighborhood. So I started experimenting with the oil pastels, and I realized how difficult it is to work with oil pastels and have the piece hanging on the wall, because you got all the pastels and all just dropping away, all the powder, and you blowing. So it was a disaster, but I wanted to capture it, and I still like their facial expressions as well. So I think it's pretty cool, but
Chris, somebody saw you taking lessons with Alyssa Monks, and they want to know what you learned from her.
Oh, so it's a good question. So I learned a bunch of stuff, but one of the things that I learned that is kind of counterintuitive to folks who come in from the outside and learning about art and drawing. And she really pushed me to start thinking about the anatomy and how muscles and ligaments work and stuff. And so I studied, I was studying with her a couple of days ago, and we were sculpting or drawing the body from the inside out. So thinking about how the pelvic his position, shoulders, spinal cord and muscles, and then working from the inside out, which was very fascinating for me. Cause like what she said too, is my brain was fighting, like, that's not how you do it. You silhouette it, you sketch it. And I just started learning techniques that were different, that I think will make me a better artist. So I'm looking forward to more instructions from her. She's the best.
Speaking of muscles, you're really serious about and disciplined about your diet and exercise, right? Have you always been that way? Is that something that like you really treated your body like, a temple kind of thing?
So I started in prison when I was 19. I knew I would be there for a while, and I wanted to kind of retain some of my youthfulness when I got out. But my personal philosophy towards it is like your body is your best and smartest, wisest investment. And I've met people who workaholic, work their asses off like all day, and when they get older, like their health isn't, and they spend the rest of their end years trying to survive and take care of themselves. And so I just want to take care of myself. And it's also a display of discipline. I'm sticking to something and committing to it. So.
Hey, Chris, I have a question from the audience here. Sum it up. What was the aha moment in your life? The one that gave you inner strength to keep moving forward?
Oh, wow. I think it was putting my pride to the side and reaching out to people for help. And I'm talking about like people like that wasn't related to me or that I didn't know. So like when I was in prison, it was reaching out to people who I knew was good in math. And it was like, man, teach me some shortcuts. I want to learn the quadratic equation, or like I want to be able to get through algebra. And then going forward, once I was home, it was, I had started companies and I was making money and I was employing a lot of people. I probably had 30 employees, but I still had challenges. And I was at this point willing to put my pride to the side and reach out to people and ask for help. How do I grow? How do I troubleshoot? What do I do when this organization is refusing to pay me? And I think that's something that we all can like benefit from, is just reaching out, asking people like to help you. And there are plenty of people that want to help folks. They just need to be able to find them.
Yeah, well said.
I've got a really serious question for you.
Okay.
Sex in the City. Seriously?
Oh. So
the guy you killed.
Yeah, oh my God. Oh, this is so bad. So when I was in prison, I would watch Sex in the City. They would show 2 episodes every night, I think at 11:30. And I would like put my little, try to close my window, because people would tease me if they saw me like watching. They was like, man, why are you watching Sex in the City? But really what it did for me, it was Sex in the City like introduced me to New York. And I went to prison as like a juvenile too, right? So there was a lot of relationship stuff that I just wasn't aware of, or just like didn't have experience in. And so Terry Bradshaw and like Samantha kind of like gave me maybe not the best like education, but they gave me some education. And I always wanted to be in Soho and Tribeca and like be fashionably correct. And here I am.
That's so
What's
great.
Kim Cattrall?
Yeah. This is another piece from it's called the Mono series, and so another one that I am just finishing up, which is pretty cool. And hopefully this comes out right. This is another painting that I did, and this is about ICE agents, which I hate, by the way. And it's about how we spend so much resources on drones and helicopters and all this military grade stuff, and they celebrate, capturing babies and children and locking folks up. And again, these are one of these paintings that people may not want to hang on their wall, but this is something that we got to talk about, like as a country, and that's important because it's still happening.
In a weird way, I mean, this is a little bit of a stretch, but it reminds me a little bit of some of Leon Golub's mercenary paintings.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously, because in a weird way, the way they're looking out at you implicates you,
Yeah.
It makes you, responsible.
It's so crazy. I mean, I like this painting that I made it, but like I sometimes walk by and I give it the finger because, like, you know, you got two helicopters, you got a drone, you got all these people, and there's just a Mexican baby, and the baby's holding the flag. Like the baby's coming here and like wants to be successful, believes in the American dream, and they just like not here, not under our watch. And so I don't know. I felt the urge to make this painting, and again, my therapist probably encouraged me to do this because, you know, I was complaining about it in therapy when I saw children in cages, and she was like, make a painting. And so that's one of the powers, I think, of artists, that we can like take issues and causes, and then we can just put it on the canvas or put it in some type of art piece and keep it alive.
Do you think catharsis is more important to you than actually whether or not the painting affects change?
Yeah. I don't know if that's the right answer, but yeah. I mean, like, I would just do this anyway. Even like if, you know, if I wasn't selling my work, if I wasn't like doing shows, I would still stay home and do this because it just soothes me.
Yeah.
I think I had one more or two more.
While you're walking over there, I have two questions from the audience that kind of relate to each other, and they're about artist inspirations on you or influences on you. So
Okay.
one of them specifically says, who is your favorite Black artist, your favorite figurative artist, and your favorite female artist?
Oh, I love this.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but that's the question.
Okay, so I would say favorite Black artist. Is this dead or alive, or this doesn't matter?
I think it doesn't matter.
Okay, I like Barclay Hendricks. I like figurative Jarrell Gibbs, who was based in Baltimore. He's alive. He actually picked out my first brushes when I started painting. He's awesome right now. He's on fire. Female artists, actually, I want to say Amy Sherrill, and that's my soul sister. She's dope. She's from Baltimore. She's awesome. But I am going to say my favorite female artist will probably be Monica. I'm going to mess up her last name. Nigenu or whatever. But she's actually coming to the Academy. So she's very young. I think she's like 21 or 22. She is a spectacular painter. She's amazing. And so I think she's my favorite. And I'm in the process of acquiring some work from her too, actually, right now. But we're going to be talking about her like 20 years from now. She's incredible.
She is.
She is. We're really thrilled to have her with us at this
Yeah. Thank you for encouraging her to like keep her head and make a point of really getting here.
Yeah, we got big plans for her. And so I look at her like I'm kind of like a big brother to her. And so I want to just help her. I want to see her just reach her full potential. And she's already like hot, but like the sky's the limit for her. And so same with Jarrell. Like Jarrell, I just talked to him today, and he's just doing really well. I think we all got to support each other, and we just push it to the limit.
What you got behind you there?
Oh, so this is a piece. It's what is the title? So we have it's not a problem, but it's a thing in Baltimore where folks just like don't pull their pants up. And I mentor like dozens and dozens of young people in Baltimore, and I'll pull up on the corner and I'll be like, you know, giving them advice and like trying to figure out how to get them a job. And I'll be like, hey, you know, how about you like pull your pants up, homie? They're like, no, Mr. Chris, this is style. Like we gotta like have our pants hanging in the Gucci belts and all that. And I just like hang out there with them for a second and like try to, you know, drop some words of encouragement to them. And then I move on or whatever. But I wanted to capture a painting about it. And so it's pretty cool. And then it's like repping my city, Baltimore. Like, you know, we got a lot of challenges, but I really love like the young people. They got so much potential. They just, you know, we just need people to believe in them. And so I wanted to capture a painting about it. I used to actually have my pants sagging when I was young too, but I don't do it anymore. But I don't know, I think it's cool. I want two more pieces too that I want to just go over right quick with you guys. This one is I've been working on for 3 years since I've been making art. And this is when I used to come to New York 3 years ago to try to get a book deal, and I would sleep on my friend's sofa. And we lived in Soho, and they had like this penthouse, and this is me on the floor. And we would think about places to eat and like all kinds of like cool little things to do. And these were all of my friends that supported me the whole time I was coming to New York. So I wanted to make a painting that captured like them, even though it's supposed to hang differently too, like at an angle. So I think it hangs kind of like this, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think I have maybe one more piece to show you guys, if that's okay.
That's perfect.
Okay, this is also almost finished. And this is a friend of mine who I met in Philly, who's a sculptor. She's from Colombia. Her name's Sophia, Laura Sophia. And she was a muse of mine for a while. So I've done a couple of paintings of her. Just a really cool person. But like what really makes her dope is like the size of her heart. She's always championing other artists, helping people get, sell work. Supporting artists and shows. So she's based in Chicago. So cool friend, and I just like to paint her all the time. She's dope.
Yeah.
Isn't it great when you find somebody you like to paint also? Because
Yeah, I become obsessed with it too. I just want to sketch them and paint them all day.
yeah, and you get to know the face, and so each time you start with a little bit of knowledge from the times before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reinforces each painting. We are getting close to the end of our time. It's gone by in about 5 minutes, but we've actually approaching the 50-minute mark here.
Okay.
And I'll ask if there are any more questions from the audience. Maybe we have time for one more before we sign off.
I do just walk by a Zach Brown painting.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So these are actually on loan from my godfather, Rick Siegel. And Monica Siegel, who loaned me some paintings. And this is before like I hung my work up. And I was like, come on, Pops, I need like some work to hang in the house. And so
Well, the Siegels are the right people to go to if you need to borrow.
yeah. So they loaned me some paintings, so I'm protecting them and enjoying them at the same time. So
That's
pretty
great.
cool. And speaking of that, I have one more drawing if I can show real quick too, actually, if possible.
Yeah. Chris,
So yes.
you still consider yourself a book crusher? Are you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'm
Like
2 books a week.
Is that right? Wow.
Yes.
Awesome.
So this is actually some of my drawings. I just started for the past couple of weeks doing sketches. And so this is Rick.
Most of those, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I love those.
And myself, but I've been doing a lot of sketching. I actually sketch every day now, especially after talking to Alyssa.
Yeah.
I have been studying. Some of these are a little crazy, but just expressions and muscles.
I like the sketch work. It's
Yeah.
really much.
And so a lot of my faces, I look a little sad or whatever, but I don't know. But yeah, I've been enjoying making these sketches, and hopefully I'll get better.
Are you working from in person or again from photographs?
So I do both. So I'll do in person. I prefer actually to get people's permission and go shoot them, like with my cell phone, and then stare at them and then sketch them. But sometimes I have in person people pose and I just sketch them. And these are actually all of these sketches I've done, and I don't know, maybe like an hour and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
That work on?
Weren't you at a drawing party a couple of days ago at Rick's?
Yeah, well, yeah,
That looked
which
nice.
was awesome.
Yeah. So working from life the whole day,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, it's the best. And like learning about light and how the light hits a person, and like every time they move, like the light changes, all kinds of things to factor in. And so I'm excited to learn more about it.
All right, guys. What do you think, Peter? Is it time that we should wrap it up? Well, listen, I just want to say that, first of all, big thank you, Chris, for being with us tonight. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
One of the things that I feel like I heard most from you there was about the importance of community and
Yes.
supporting each other. And I have to say that's what the Academy is all about, is community. And we're just really glad you're part of ours. So thank you for being with us tonight.
Me too. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of the community. Like, I'm excited.
Well, it makes me want to do a studio visit
Yeah, you got to. Yeah.
once things
All right.
get a little safer.
All right, all. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.